News and talk. Remember, the answers given on this show do not constitute legal advice and do not create an attorney-client relationship. For legal advice, all you have to do, just call the office anytime at 1-800-DeWitt-Law, or you can interact with us on the show by sending an email to ask@dewittlaw.com, or you can call 407-53-MOSES. Every Sunday morning at 10 a.m., you'll learn how Florida's legal issues affect you with your host, Mo DeWitt of the DeWitt Law Firm. Mo will answer your questions to discuss the latest legal issues affecting the citizens of Central Florida. Hey, Mo, good morning.
Morning. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Happy Labor Day weekend, long holiday weekend. So hopefully everybody's out there and enjoying our beautiful weather here in Central Florida, in between storms here and there.
Yeah, we get a few of those around these parts, but yeah, otherwise, nice little relaxing Labor Day weekend, hopefully.
Absolutely. Love it. All right. So we have got quite the stack of questions that came through.
Oh,
once
yeah.
Again. Yes. So we're going to get right to it. This one, I'm going to start off with this one just because it's a little bit longer. So I'll explain it real quick and see if we can help this person out. So I have the question regarding guardianship, they said. It said, "I'll try and keep it short. This would be for their brother who is 42 years old, lives in Brevard County. He was a severe alcoholic that eventually had it so bad that it caused brain damage for him. And he was in the hospital for about a month and is now in physical rehab facility that is draining down his income until he qualifies for Medicaid. So it says he basically has no short-term memory, cannot take care of himself. The only family he has is the 91-year-old grandmother and a brother that lives in California and the person that's asking this question. So my brother has exhausted all routes of advocacy in Brevard with no success unless we had a lot of money, which we don't, I guess. And so we talked about professional guardianship, since we don't feel any of us could take the responsibility. And we were told that you can only apply for guardianship if you have someone that is willing to be a guardian. But what we read was that if no one was willing to be guardian, then he would become a ward of the state and they would appoint a professional. We just don't know what to do without the time and financial burden of being the guardian. Is there such thing as being a ward of the state? That's got to be tough. It's your brother, and now he's going through, already struggling, with the alcoholism, but now it's taking a toll, on his mental health and now financially draining him too.
Yeah, I've dealt with these issues a little bit. Frankly, this isn't something that we deal with in the office very regularly.
Mm-hmm.
You really want to speak to an attorney who specializes in this type of work. And there's there's attorneys who deal with Medicaid issues, because there's certain things that you can do or may need to apply for to qualify for Medicaid. But also there's obviously attorneys who deal with guardianships and conservatorships and things like that. So I would really sit down with one of them and just at least have a consultation with them.
Right.
Lay out, what your options are here. It's also going to depend what the brother's financial situation is as well. Because a lot of times with a guardianship, they're using your assets. There's a guardian who's appointed, but they're using your assets to support you.
Right.
So then if you don't have any assets, then like they say here, you could become a ward of the state. You could be dependent on Social Security and Medicaid, for your medical bills and things of that nature. So it's really more of an in-depth conversation than I can really answer from an email here.
Mm-hmm.
But feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll put you in touch with some attorneys who do this kind of work on a regular basis, and they'll sit down with them, have a consultation with them, and then they can kind of lay out a plan for you and give you the different options. Now, if finances are an issue, then there may be some legal aid organizations or other organizations that they can point you in that direction. But at least if you can pay for the consultation, then you can at least know your options.
Because I would think if the brother's got tons of money, it makes things a lot easier, because you get to use his finances and say, he's going to get tip-top care and he's going to live in this facility and people are going to take care of him 24/7 until he gets back on his feet. But it's your brother, and it is time consuming. It can be expensive. So if he is having financial issues as well, man, that really ties your hands. And you think with your heart first because it's family, but what do you do? Yeah,
it can be a very, very tough situation, obviously, especially if resources are limited, because you certainly don't want him out on the street, but when he needs full-time care, and you got to go through the appropriate channels to get that set up. And that may be where a Medicaid attorney can really help them, get that financial assistance to
Mm.
get, a Medicaid program and into a rehab facility or a long-term care facility, depending on what the situation is, obviously, but really get the help that they need, hopefully. But you really got to sit down with someone who deals with that every day. And like I said, specializes in that field, because that's just not something we do or that I really deal with regularly. Because there's a lot of intricacies with that kind of work.
What does exactly mean to be a ward of the state? What does that definition technically
So
mean?
it basically means that you're dependent on state assistance, right? So
Okay.
you really have no financial resources. The state's kind of financially supporting you, essentially, is really what it means.
Okay, gotcha. Um, Sounded technical. I knew
Yeah.
there was a simple definition.
You
for
know,
it
as
that you could do.
lawyers, we like to make everything sound more technical than it is.
Ward of the state. Okay, here's the next one. Hey Mo, I need some legal advice. I'm sure you get swamped by requests like this one all the time, but very long
But
story
that's
in
what this
brief.
show is for.
Exactly,
Yeah.
is to help out and give you some legal advice. So it says, we bought our current house about a year and a half ago. We recently discovered extensive termite damage on an exterior wall and support beam, which have to be completely rebuilt. Insurance doesn't cover termite damage, they say. We have evidence from the termite company that the seller knew of the damage, which he did not disclose on the sale paperwork. Is this worth pursuing something like this, or do we just suck it up and take it as a loss?
Well, that really depends on how much the damage cost you. So, these are what we call non-disclosure lawsuits. It's basically when someone sells you a property, sells you a home, and failed to disclose that there's a material defect with the home. In this case, termite damage. So, if the termite damage cost you $500 to fix, it's probably not worth going after.
Sure, right.
If it costs $50,000 to fix, then it may be worth pursuing. But there's a number of things you need to look at. Not only what the damage costs, but then what's the collectability against the person that you're going after? Because, like they say, typically there's not insurance in these types of lawsuits. Sometimes they'll sue both the prior owner and the real estate agent or real estate broker, trying to say that the broker knew or should have known about the failure to disclose. Sometimes that can be a difficult thing to prove, depending on the facts, obviously. But assuming you can't get the real estate agent or the real estate broker on the hook, because they usually have insurance, if you can't get them, then you're just suing the person personally, and you have to do an assessment of, okay, even if I get a judgment against them, is it collectible? Because you don't just want to be throwing good money after bad, because you're going to have to pay a lawyer to pursue this for you, obviously. So there's a number of things to look at with these types of cases. They can be tough cases. I've seen people do them and be successful with them before. But I think you have to kind of do a thorough, in-depth analysis. Not only is this worth pursuing? What are the legal fees I'm going to expend? Am I able to recoup any of those legal fees if I do win this lawsuit? And then what's the potential collectability against the person who I'm suing? Because, we have very strong homestead protection in Florida. So if they took all the money that they, potentially made off the sale of the home and just rolled it into a new homestead, and that's the only asset they have, you're probably not going to be able to collect from them, most likely. It could be very difficult.
So $500, don't worry about it. If it's a pretty penny and you've got the proof, then maybe worth going after them, especially if you know that they're doing all right in life.
Well, possibly. I mean, the other question is, they say we have proof that they knew about this. Well, what is that proof? Because there's what you can prove in life and what you can prove in a court of law. So, you want to sit down with an attorney and make sure that proof, quote unquote, is, first of all, admissible in court, that the attorney believes that it would be enough to substantiate the case, and then look at it from the other perspective. Okay, what are the potential defenses to this? Maybe the prior owner never saw that document. We don't know what this proof is, so I'm kind of speculating here, obviously. But you want to, first of all, evaluate how strong is that proof, because the key to a non-disclosure lawsuit is the person knew about the damage and failed to disclose it. So obviously they failed to disclose it, because when you sell a home, you fill out a disclosure form as part of the sale and disclose, if there is mold or water damage or whatever it may be. But you have to show that they knew about it. So you have to prove knowledge, that they had direct knowledge of this termite damage. So, their defense could be, oh yeah, we knew about the termite damage, but we fixed it and it was gone. We thought we replaced all the wood. I mean, who knows, and I don't know what they did or didn't disclose as well, if they disclosed some termite damage or whatever. So obviously we don't have all the details, but you just want to really analyze these types of lawsuits before you go and spend money on them. A lot of times people want to sue out of principle, but principle can be very expensive.
Right.
So
I'll show you, and then
right,
it ends
and
up
then
costing
you
more.
spend 20 grand, and you go, I don't know if that was such a good idea.
So what happens in the situation where say like I'm a homeowner for 30 years, and like those disclosures when you're selling the house always freaks me out because you don't want to lie. I'm an honest person, but like say for example, I've lived in a home for 35 years or something like that, and 20 years ago we had a leak in the laundry room behind the wall, but we fixed everything and we took care of everything. But 6 months after they move in, maybe they're ripping out the wall and they find something that like honestly, truthfully, we didn't know about. Can you be on the hook for something like that?
Well, I always say this is America. Anyone can sue anyone for any reason.
Yeah.
Again, they'd have to show you had knowledge. And so that's where, my recommendation is always try to over disclose if you can, and then explain what it is, because then you're basically giving all the knowledge you have as part of the sale.
Right. Yeah.
Now, of course, 30 years, people forget things. I've lived in my house for 10 years. I don't know that I can remember all the repairs we've done.
Right. Yes.
So, you just have to do the best that you can. Obviously, they're looking more for substantial, costly issues in these types of cases. Usually, substantial termite damage, substantial mold damage where you have to have a whole, mold remediation, things like that. Stuff that's really going to cost a lot of money. And typically, people kind of remember that stuff if you know about it.
Right. Okay.
And so that's where you really want to be disclosing all that.
All right. We're going to take a break here in just a minute and get to some more questions, but I'm going to ask you a question from me real quick.
All right.
Remember I told you I had my insurance company called me and said, we're going to have an inspector come out and check out your house. So he came out, super cool guy. We actually hit it off and everything like that. And he wanted to take a picture of one outlet underneath one sink. He wanted to see the attic. He wanted to get on the roof, like all these different things. And, so I'm trying to be friends with him and everything like that. I'm like, what exactly is he looking for? And I'm sure what are they? Are they looking to see if like you have old leaky pipes? Do you have like old copper fittings and anything that could potentially cause a fire?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of all of that. It'd be great to have an actual home inspector, come on the show and tell us exactly what they're looking for. But obviously, there is certain types of wiring. I think, what is it, aluminum wiring that is more likely to cause fires. So they're checking for that. They're checking the plumbing fixtures to make sure they're updated or not leaking, or probably not a certain type of fixture. But typically they kind of have a report system where they have to take pictures of certain things. I know they're looking for like the roof trusses to see how they're connected, and if they have the hurricane brackets. And I'm sure someone listening to this is saying this guy knows nothing of what he's talking about with home inspections right now. But in general, they have basically an app that they use, and all that information goes into the app. Now, what's interesting, that one thing that's happened is a lot of the home inspectors used to pay for the app. Well, the insurance companies have now offered these apps for free, or a lot of them for free. And then they basically take the data and put it into the insurance database for when you go get insurance. So they already have pictures of your home from, previous inspections, basically. And it becomes now this giant database that they use. So it's kind of an interesting way that they're using these home inspections now to really gather more data on these properties over time. I don't know that all of them do that. I think there are still some paid services that don't kind of sell your data, so to speak. But I know a lot of them have become free, and they're basically selling the data to big insurance so that they can see everything that's going on with your home.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, it was interesting. I'm like, oh man, I hope you don't see anything. I think everything's good. So
yeah, and I'm sure they're getting up on the roof, obviously taking pictures of the roof, seeing if there's any damage there, just kind of documenting everything. Now, I'm sure as well, if there were to be a lawsuit down the road, a homeowner's insurance suit saying, hey, you were supposed to, you make a claim against the homeowner's insurance policy. They say, no, that was pre-existing damage. Then they're going to be pulling out those photos to try to show that it was pre-existing damage.
Gotcha.
Right.
Maybe, we told you to fix that leaky thing.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and that makes sense. Then that's on me. That's my fault.
Right.
So, all right. Hey, listen, if people want to submit a question, or they have some, they need some advice from you, or they're searching for an attorney, how can they reach you?
DeWittLaw.com is the easiest way. Or 1-800-DeWitt-LAW, 1-800-339-4885. We got people there basically 24 hours a day. So if you need anything, call any time of day, and then we'll get back to you as soon as we can and try to guide you and lead you in the right direction. All
right. We got some more great questions coming up. Plus, I have a very funny story for you about my brand new roof that I have. From somebody that happened to knock on my door. So I'll have that for you coming up here in just a minute. You're listening to the DeWitt Law Review on 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk.
Congratulations on 305.
Hey, welcome back, and thanks so much for listening to the DeWitt Law Review on 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. My name is Jay Edwards, here with Mo DeWitt of the DeWitt Law Review, and thank you so much for having me in. I love coming down to your office building because you got your own studio. Like, I want one of these in my house. You have your own studio
we
right
can make
here.
it happen.
Man, this is fantastic. Hey, listen, if you've got a question, need some advice, you can always call the office anytime. 1-800-DeWitt Law. That's 1-800-DEWITT Law. If you've got a question, ask at DeWittLaw.com, or also you can call and leave a voicemail 407-53-MOSES, and that's how we'll get to your question. Got one here coming up in a second, but I wanted to tell you this quick story, with all the roofing things and everything like that, with the people coming around trying to get business.
Yep.
I just happened to get, I had damage to my roof, and it was time to replace it anyway, and we ended up getting a brand new roof. My roof is maybe a month old, right? It's brand new. Like, I still find the nails in the yard, right?
Yep, I've seen those before.
I have this guy show up to my house a couple days ago, knocks on the door, leaves his card, and does like the whole Ring doorbell so he can leave a voice,
Gotcha, yeah.
Hey, just wanted to let you know, just kind of checking out your roof from afar, and it looks like you've got some weather damage up there, and just happy to hop on it with your permission and go ahead and let you know that, we can get you a new roof. And I'm like, it's a month old, man. I'm like, come on.
I mean, clearly, he can't really see the roof probably. He's just going around to everybody's door and saying that. And then he's going to get up there and hope that there's storm damage.
Try to find something.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to get a, insurance broker on the show, or have them call in and just tell us kind of what the state of, homeowners insurance is at this point. Because it's got to be such a mess. I mean, these guys are dealing with it every day. People are getting dropped left and right. I think I saw last week, and I don't have the name of the company in front of me, but someone else just pulled out of the state of Florida, is no longer, so another insurance company left, so I don't know, what are we down to, like one now? I mean, it's getting really, pretty slim pickings now.
It's the one that I have.
Yeah,
and I
probably.
think most everybody have them right now because everybody else is bailing.
Yeah. And so, obviously the legislature passed this big reform act, that's supposed to help homeowners in the state of Florida, help homeowners insurance. And basically everyone I know, their rates are going through the roof. Their deductibles are through the roof now, if you actually read that. And companies are still leaving. So it doesn't seem like it's done a whole lot yet. Will it do something in the future? Is it going to take time? I don't know. Or do they need to do something more? Because at some point it's not going to be affordable to live in the state of Florida with these kind of homeowners insurance rates. So
and the whole, we're putting 30-year shingles on your house, but after 10 years, your insurance company is saying, hey, you need to redo your roof. I'm like, well, wait, it's 10 years old. It's still in great shape.
Yeah, I mean, that kills me. I mean, why are we wasting materials? Why are we wasting money on a roof that still has 20 years of life in it?
Right.
And basically either you have to pay, extraordinary high insurance rates, or pay a ton of money to put a new roof on the house. So either way, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
It's like the same, like imagine having, buying tires for your car, and you buy the 40-year or 40,000 mile, and at 15,000, the tire guy goes, hey, by the way, your car insurance company wants you to get new tires because you only have 25,000 miles left on them. Like, wait, what? How does that make any sense at all?
Yeah. I mean, it would feel better if they just lied to you and say, hey, it's a 10-year roof, you'll have to replace it after that.
And you know what? I would be okay with that, I think. But knowing that, you sold me on these 30-year shingles, and now all of a sudden after a decade, you're like, nope, time to go ahead. It looks great. It's doing a good job, but we need to replace it.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see kind of if they are seeing any relief in the future, the insurance agents, or if it's still going to be a mess as far as they see.
You know what? Maybe you're going through something similar and you do need some legal advice. You got to figure out what the heck you're supposed to do. You can always call 1-800-DeWitt Law. That's 1-800-DeWitt Law. Even on a holiday weekend, somebody's around to take your call, right? They can chat with somebody and point them in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, we have people answer the phones 24 hours a day,
Perfect.
7 days a week. So, if it's sometimes, depending on the situation, they'll try to get me on my cell phone. Obviously, I do sleep every once in a while, but you can always leave a message with them, and we'll try to get back to you. And of course, we have if you have just a legal question, you can always send it to ask@dewitlaw.com. That's what it's there for. Like we said before, sometimes you don't need an actual consultation. You just have a little question. Maybe you're in the early stages of something or thinking about something. That's what that's there for. So we can try to get you some feedback and point you in the right direction and help you out.
Perfect. And we will get to some of those questions here in just a few minutes. Got one about some canceled insurance with a suspended license and a breakup that resulted in a pregnancy and needs some advice on what to do next. So more coming up with your questions and answers with Mo DeWitt. That's the DeWitt Law Review right here on 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk.
About a year ago, I was in a really bad accident. I got my hand caught in a saw and I lost my thumb. Luckily, the doctors were able to put everything back together. Originally, we reached out to other firms to take my case and nobody would help us. But when we called Mr. DeWitt and his team, they were there to help through the whole thing. I'm extremely happy with the result. Extremely happy with the result. It was an easy process. They made it as easy as possible and we got the best possible result. Injured on the go? Just call Mo.
Welcome back to the DeWitt Law Review on 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk. My name is Jay Edwards here with Mo DeWitt. Mo, give everybody the number if they need to reach you guys or if they just have a question.
Nice and easy. 1-800-DeWitt-Law, 1-800-DEWITT-LAW. You can call us on that line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Perfect. Oh, you're still going to say 4. You're gonna
I was going to take one day. I was going to we'll take one day off this year, but no, there's always somebody there. It's not always me or not always an attorney, obviously,
Right.
but there are people there who can assist you and, try to point you in the right direction and, get a hold of us if needed and so on and so forth.
Right.
And then, of course, if you just have a legal question, that's what we're here for every Sunday. Email those into ask@dewitlaw.com. Or if you want to leave us a voicemail, that's a great way to do it. I love the voicemails. A lot of times we get a lot more detail in the voicemails too, which makes it easier to answer your legal questions. Give us a call, 407-536-6737. That is 407-53-MOSES or 407-536-6737. And I love to hear the voicemails, love to get the questions. Always a lot of fun. Sometimes you guys throw some interesting stuff at us. But we try to help you out and point you in the right direction, even if it's not something that we deal with here in this office.
Well, then plus you don't have to listen to me read everybody's emails. It's nice hearing somebody else's voice every now and again.
You got a great voice, Jay.
Oh, thank you.
I'd love to hear you read. But.
Well, we've got this guy. Speaking of the voicemail line, It's as easy as this. He's got a question, so let's get to his voicemail and see if we can help him out.
Yes, please. I have a question I'd like to ask you folks. I bought my house had it built just a little less than 3 years ago. Having some problems with it, cosmetic. But one problem, I don't know if it's cosmetic. I had vinyl flooring put down all through the house. It's coming apart, and it's coming apart lengthwise and sideways. I've had 3 professional companies come out and look at it. They said the flooring was improperly installed. It cannot be repaired. And I'm looking at the whole thing would be replaced at roughly $10,000 to me. And I called the builder, and he says, just see your attorney. He cares less. Does he have any obligation on this? If you could just let me know. Thank you.
All right, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a tough one. So basically you have to look at 2 different avenues here. One, if it's actually the vinyl flooring, he says it was improperly installed, but let's start with the premise that it's actual vinyl flooring. Does that flooring have any sort of warranty? So you'd have to go back and look at the manufacturer, see if they offer any sort of warranty on the flooring. Now, from what he says here, even if they did offer a warranty on the flooring, it sounds like they may deny the warranty claim, saying that it was improperly installed, if it truly was improperly installed. Which then that leads you back to the builder, obviously, the person who installed the floor, or maybe the subcontractor who installed the floor. Now, the question there would be, did they provide any warranty? Sometimes when you buy a new construction home or something like that, as part of the contract, they provide a warranty for a certain period of time. So go back and look at that. Assuming there's no warranty in either place, by the manufacturer or the builder, then the only other avenue you could possibly have is what we call a construction defect lawsuit. And with, given that this is cosmetic, I don't know that this would really fall under construction defect. Usually with construction defect lawsuits, we're looking at things where actually there was a great case in Las Vegas where they built a a hotel, but they spent like $500 million building this hotel, but the structure was not built properly, so they can never put the actual concrete floors in on each floor of the hotel.
It wouldn't hold.
It wouldn't hold.
Oh, man.
So they had to tear the whole thing down and start over.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty crazy. So usually you're looking at more of structural issues
Mhm.
with concrete defect lawsuits, things that are really going to take a lot of money to repair, and the building's not really sound.
Right.
This is more of a cosmetic issue where, unfortunately, because it was caught later on, maybe it's outside the builder's warranty.
Mhm.
It may just be a situation where you're kind of out of luck, unfortunately. Now, you also could exceed any potential statute of limitations, which would kind of bar you from bringing any lawsuit anyways. So, like on a breach of contract or
Right.
something like that, it's
Yeah.
usually around 4 years. So, unfortunately, it might be a tough situation. I would explore the avenue with the manufacturer, see if they do offer any sort of warranty on those floors. I mean, vinyl floors are usually pretty durable.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're coming apart and they're not reusable or able to be fixed by another flooring contractor or flooring installer seems odd to me. But again, I know I'm a lawyer, not not a flooring installer. I know nothing about floors. I just happen to know, vinyl is basically plastic almost. It's
Mhm.
pretty difficult to kind of ruin it for the most part, I would think.
Try taking it up. You'll see how hard it is to.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, well, when I bought my first house, I had the brilliant idea of installing the floors myself. I was like, yeah, you can go down to, the local place down here, pick up the floors. Yeah, how hard could this be? That took like 2 days off of work, and took me like 2 weeks, a few weekends, and I don't think I could stand up straight for about a
Nope.
month because you're just hunched over,
Not easy.
nailing that stuff in all the time. Yeah, not easy at all. I give a lot of respect to anyone who does that on a regular basis. But I think those are really the only avenues you can look at on this type of situation. Unfortunately, there's not a great answer here.
Right.
Sometimes that's my job, is to give people bad news. But you may be out of luck and just have to, bite the bullet and replace the floors eventually.
Could it be something even too? Maybe it's not necessarily the tile floor. Like, could it be the glue or the laminate that they used, or maybe the guy installing it didn't prep the floors and did a half job of it, so where
So-
it comes back on them?
So usually, and again, I'm no expert, but usually in these situations, I usually find it comes down to the prep work. Because if you don't spend the time doing the proper prep work, if
Yeah.
it's not level, if it's not even,
Mhm.
if you don't, start out doing the spacers properly, and you start off where it's crooked, it only gets worse as you put in more of the floor, essentially.
Sure.
So I would guess it has something to do with the prep work. Now, a lot of vinyl floors are floating. I don't know if these are floating or glued down or whatever it may be, but certainly if they're glued down, maybe they use the wrong product, or product that's not supposed to be used for vinyl floors, or whatever it may be. But call a few flooring companies, get them to come out and look at it, see if they can give you any more information as to what's wrong with it. Is it repairable? Does it have to be completely replaced? But in any situation, I always recommend call 3 companies, get 3 estimates, get 3 opinions. Not everyone's opinion's the same, and
Right.
some people are more honest than others, and it can't hurt to get a second opinion on it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. Well, hopefully that helps them out. So, all right, let's get to this one. This has to do with a license being suspended.
okay,
Said, hey, Mo, just found out my license got suspended back in April of this year, and it's because I canceled my insurance but never returned the plate. Is there a way to waive the $150 fee they're charging me to reinstate my license? Says, everything was legal on the car. They tried to charge me because the registration was good. They're trying to charge me. The registration was good. I needed it canceled by returning the plate. It's not fair that we get charged for everything if everything is in order. Says, my registration is up to date. Several people I talked to that canceled their insurance have told me that they never returned the plate and nothing happened. Any help greatly appreciated.
yeah, that's one of those where you just have to get on the phone with the DMV and ask for a supervisor and see if you can get the situation straightened out with them. Maybe get somebody who's nice to waive it. Unfortunately, I've dealt with the DMV on situations before, and they don't know everything, obviously. But if you're nice to them and you get to a supervisor, maybe they'll help you out. I know for a fact I haven't returned license plates before.
Me
and,
too, yeah.
It's
I'm like,
it's never
uh-oh.
been an issue. And I remember personally, I had a jet ski one time that I bought from a guy in this was years ago. I bought from a guy in, I think it was Georgia or something. It was another state basically.
Mhm.
And so I went to go register it in Florida here, and they go, where's the prior registration? I go, well, the state that I bought it in, they don't register watercraft under a certain footage essentially.
Right.
And they kind of argued with me back and forth, and finally someone like went and got some book out of the library in the back and looked it up, and they go, oh, you're right. Okay, we'll go ahead and register it. So sometimes it's just, having that conversation with them and, be nice about it, because everybody's got a hard job. Nobody wants to be yelled at. But if you're nice to them and say, hey, this is a situation, maybe they can get it corrected for you. Off the top of my head, though, I don't know the license plate return law that well to be able to tell you what the law is on that.
So luckily it's $150, not $1,500.
There you go. Yeah.
All right.
Blessings there.
I got a question from Dylan. Broke up with my girlfriend this past weekend. Been dating for about 3 months. 3 days after the breakup, she informs me that she is pregnant. We live in Orange County, if that's relevant. She's choosing to have the baby. Lives with her mother, has no job, and is on disability. I don't see how she can care for a child in her state. After long, her condition, not in the state of Florida. After long text conversations, I cannot convince her for any other option. Would I be responsible for any way for the child, even though I'm telling her I do not want to be involved? I don't want the child in any way, but she's making the decision basically that she wants the baby.
Well, I think you could probably answer this question, Jay.
I guess I can, and I do not have a law degree, my friend.
You're on the hook. You
play, you pay.
Right, you conceive the child, you're on the hook. Now, as we talked about before, this is a good thing for anybody out there who may be in this situation or has a child with someone who they're not married to. Is important to know is until you file a paternity action in the state of Florida as the father of a child, if you're not married, you have no legal right to that child. So what a paternity action is actually designed to do is establish a legal father.
Who does that? She does that or he does that?
Either one can do it.
Okay.
And you file it with the court, and ultimately the judge would adjudicate who is the father. Now, a lot of people tell me, well, I'm listed on the birth certificate. Doesn't matter. In order to be the legal father and have legal rights in the state of Florida, you have to file the paternity action.
Really? Okay.
So there's usually two ways that this would go. And using this example here is the mother would file the paternity action because she wants child support, and they would adjudicate him as the father, and then, yes, he would be on the hook for child support. Or the father would file the paternity action because he wants the rights to see the child, because otherwise he's just at the mother's goodwill and whim as to whether she wants to let him see the child or not. I know it sounds messed up, but that's what the law is. So,
right, yeah.
If you're in a situation where, even if you're on good terms, let's say you're still together, it's a good idea to do an uncontested paternity action where you're legally established as the father in a court of law. That way, if anything ever happens in the future, let's say the mother passes away, unfortunately, or something like that, everything's already been adjudicated. I actually had a case one time where they had not done a paternity action and the father passed away, and the child would have been entitled to the father's Social Security benefits.
Right.
They couldn't get those Social Security benefits established because they did not have him adjudicated as the legal father.
That's crazy.
So we had to go back, and the coroner had DNA, and we had to use the DNA that the coroner had to do the paternity test and legally get him established as the father, so that child could get the Social Security rights that he or she was entitled to. So it's just an important thing to do. It's something nobody thinks about. Especially if you're on good terms with the mother or father or whoever it may be. But it is maybe it's an archaic law at this point, but it is still the law. Until you file that paternity action, you have no legal rights, even if you're listed on the birth certificate.
So I'll give you an example. Mom goes into labor. Mom and dad of this child are perfectly get along. They're planning on getting married or whatever. And mom has the baby and sadly passes away 12 hours after giving birth.
Right.
That child's now born. Does that child technically, if they haven't done the paternity, does that mean that technically that child has no dad at that moment or whatever? And until he does that, he's technically not the dad?
So possibly. So in that situation, there could be a little bit of a dispute in the short term as far as who's caring for the child. But usually you could file a paternity action right away and then file an emergency motion to establish, temporary legal rights until it's ultimately adjudicated that he's the father through the paternity action. So there is a way to do it quickly.
Okay.
But of course, in that, interim time, maybe the grandparents want the child or, there could be a dispute over who has legal rights to the child until it's legally established by a court. But there are provisions to kind of do that on an expedited basis if there is a, an unfortunate accident like that or a fortunate situation.
Well, and I guess that's the last thing you want to have to worry about taking care of in a situation like that.
Yeah.
God forbid it, something like that were to happen. But see, this is why it's good to have Mo DeWitt and the DeWitt law firm. So,
that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. All right. I got a couple more questions coming up here in just a few minutes. Remember, if you've got questions, you need legal advice, call the office, 1-800-DeWitt-Law. You can even reach somebody right now. I know it's a holiday weekend, but if you call 1-800-DEWITT-LAW, you can reach somebody. You can also interact with the show. That's where we're getting your questions and your voicemails from. Again, today, you can email us if you need some legal advice, ask@DeWittLaw.com. That's ASK@DeWittLaw.com, spelled DEWITT. Or you can also call and leave the voicemail like you heard earlier at 407-53-MOSES. That's 407-53-MOSES. All right, we got a Mo Pro Tip of the Week coming up. Also, we'll get to another question coming up in just a few minutes. You're listening to the DeWitt Law Review on 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk. Welcome back to the DeWitt Law Review on 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk. We got our Mo Pro Tip of the Week coming up in just a minute. But first, a quick question, one more email regarding a minor car accident that somebody said they just had today. Rear-ended a vehicle, minor damage to the bumpers only. We pulled off. I got his name. He got mine. He got my driver's license number, although I forgot to get his. Says he does have my insurance. I have pictures of my vehicle, but I unfortunately forgot to get photos of his. And admittedly, I should have done a better job of that. The guy was in a rush to get his girlfriend, so he said he'd be in touch. He had to go, and we text afterwards. And he asked if I was interested in getting a quote to fix his car without going through insurance. So I have questions because the last time I was in a car accident, I was a teenager. Should I file a claim with my insurance? Not really sure what to do at this point. There is no police report.
Well, I mean, it really depends how much damage there is and what you feel comfortable doing. Now, best case scenario is, in any car accident, you get a police report because that establishes a lot of the information that this person missed. Make sure you have all the pertinent information. Hopefully the police officer will determine who is at fault or list an at-fault party in the police report. And then that makes things a lot easier with your insurance company when you go and file that claim or if you file that claim. But here, you didn't do that. So the question is basically, how much is the damage going to be? Now, the one thing that always scares me is they say, okay, yeah, we don't need to call the police. I'll handle it on my own. I'll pay you directly. Then you try to contact them and they ghost you and just never respond to you.
Right.
And now you're in a situation where you're left with either taking them to small claims court and trying to get them to pay for it. Because, even if you then file an insurance claim, they'll probably say, oh, or if you have their insurance information, that is.
Right.
Then they may say, oh, I was never at that accident. What are you talking about? If you don't have pictures to prove it, it can be more difficult. So, in this situation, it's really up to the individual and how comfortable they are. Sometimes what appears to be a little amount of damage too is a lot more expensive than people may think it is.
Because a lot of stuff's underneath that you can't see with the naked eye.
Underneath, and sometimes those parts just can't be repaired. It's not like we have steel bumpers like we used to.
Yeah.
You just hammer it out. Oh, that's $50, Joe. Here you go. They had to replace the whole bumper, and that could be $700-800 depending on the type of vehicle, obviously. So sure, go get an estimate for it. Present it to the other person, but if they're not going to pay it or they're not being responsive, then maybe you go ahead and file the insurance claim. But I would do that all pretty quickly. You really don't want to drag your feet on that.
And if you're the person that bumps them and ends up hitting theirs, then you would probably get a ticket possibly in that situation, depending on the police officer.
Yeah, you could.
And there's no police report. I guess you can kind of consider yourself lucky that you didn't get the ticket. And if they're going to give you the opportunity to pay it, as long as it's not an absurd amount, I guess it's okay. You just don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you hope people do the right thing. You hope they're good people.
Right.
And, take care of their obligations that they hit you and it's just a little bit of damage. They'll get it fixed for you or pay for the damage. But unfortunately, I always see the bad stories.
Yes.
When people come to me, it's always things have not gone according to plan.
Right.
So I've obviously seen where the person who hit him disappeared and said, I wasn't there. I don't know who you are, what
Right.
you're talking about. This is a scam. You know,
Better
that
to
kind of
play it
stuff.
safe. Always assume
Yeah.
the worst, I guess, in people, which sadly we
Yeah.
have to do sometimes nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, as attorneys, that's kind of what we're trained to do is
Right.
think worst case scenario all the time, which kind of leads to a little bit of paranoia, I'm sure.
Right.
But, you know, you just kind of have to assume that to protect yourself,
Shoot
unfortunately.
for the best.
Yep.
All right, we got about a minute left or so. Give me our Mo pro tip of the week.
I'll do a super quick one, super simple one. You know, we're talking about car accidents.
Mhm.
You know, go ahead and check your car insurance. We obviously, I tell you every week, make sure you have uninsured motorist coverage. But also a good one to add maybe a rental car on your policy. If
Mhm.
you're in an accident, your car is not drivable. A lot of times people get into a situation where they can't afford to pay for a rental car out of pocket. And usually to add that rental car coverage on your policy is pretty insignificant. It really doesn't cost very much.
Right.
I was dealing with someone earlier this weekend who you know, was in that situation. Their minivan it's probably going to be totaled. It's certainly not drivable. Yeah, I think they have 4 or 5 kids that they have to haul around, and they don't have a vehicle to do it right now. They don't really have the money to come out of pocket for a rental, and they don't have rental car coverage on their policy. And so, you know, sometimes you can get rental coverage from the other party, but that can take time. So just add it to your policy. It should be fairly cheap.
And rental cars sometimes aren't the cheapest right now either. So it's
They've
nice.
gone through the roof.
Yes,
Yeah.
they have. So it's nice if it is covered for you. So there you have it. Another great Mo Pro tip of the week. Send those questions in for next week to ask@dewittlaw.com, or you can leave that voicemail 407-53-MOSES. Have a great holiday weekend, and thanks so much for listening to the DeWitt Law Review on 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and